So I'll welcome Ian Preston. I'm sure he can.
I am going to sit down, if I may.
We'll let you.
We're scared you probably, those of you who've been here before, know that I've got a bad back. So it helps me if I sit down from time to time. Anybody had slipped this before? Don't do it. Especially when they don't go to the. Oh, first of all, don't go to the doctor. Went to the doctor said rest. Went on holiday, he said that'll do you the world of good. Come back, rest. Still got pain 6 to 8 weeks later when he's supposed to go 4 weeks. And finally got round to go to the physio, and the physio said worst thing you could have done. The disc's gone back, and because you've been resting, it's taken the nerve back with it. So now I'm having violent exercises with my physio. I won't describe what the physio does when he gets me over, bends me over, and just thinks behind me that you do not want to know. But I want to describe it to ladies, but let's put it this way, hopefully it's getting better. It's only taken off, it's warm.
That 20 quid slips your physio to do that to you was the best 20 quid I ever spent.
I've got news for you, it's a damn sight more than 20 quid. Right, I love this. We scoured the building for those high stools, because I think they're great. You get one of these in a high stool, and I'm in my elements. I'm going to move that because I'm going to move. Okay. Hands up, who's in sales? Okay, so those of you that are not in sales, what do you do? Those of you that were too shy to put your hands up? Okay, let me ask you another way. Who's got a partner? Who's married? Who lives with somebody? Okay, you're definitely in sales. You've sold yourself at least once.
You're all in sales.
You're all in sales. And if you work for yourself, you have to be in sales. And you're an accountant, and you're a receptionist, and you're a telephonist, So here's my first question for you today, because you're going to wonder where this is going in a minute. Oh, good, there's a picture of a book there. Damn, I bought the wrong book. Never mind, no help. Are salespeople born or made?
Made.
Both.
I think you've got to have a certain personality trait to be a good salesperson. But you can.
Is that sitting on the fence?
No,
Come on, okay, let's be honest. Well, by the way, the last time I was here, I wasn't here last month, the time before we had the lovely Shaquille.
Yeah.
You all remember Shaquille's book review? Will anybody ever forget Shaquille's book review? I will try and keep mine just a touch shorter. I am becoming the go-to warm-up man apparently, because a very nice speaker said to me, I've heard I want you to go on first. Hopefully, and then Shaquille, after we went to the Coffee and Natter in Birmingham, he was doing an event with Jay in the evening, and unfortunately Shaquille got stuck, so he was 3/4 an hour late getting there. So I kindly got up and did 45 minutes on LinkedIn, just off the top of my head.
It was very good too.
If you need a warm-up man, if you need a good warm-up man, I'm your man. So going back to this question, hands up if you think salespeople are born. Right, hands up if you think salespeople are made.
So learn skill.
Right, so the majority is you're saying is it's made something to learn skill. Okay, how about if I spin it round slightly and say to you, hands up who's got, either had, got access to, or know, been out with a 4 or 5 year old child? Great. Imagine the scene. Saturday morning, you've got your little 5-year-old and you're walking down the high street with your 5-year-old. And the little 5-year-old about 10:30, 11 o'clock says, Daddy, Auntie, Uncle, doesn't matter what it is, let's just call it Daddy to make the life easier. Daddy, I want an ice cream. And you're going to say, nope. You just had your breakfast, it's lunch soon. Now then, he asks again, Daddy, I want an ice cream. And you're going to say, nope. If you think about it, he's closing you. He's asking you a question, and effectively he's trying to get you to say yes, which effectively is a sales process. So he's saying to you, can I have an ice cream? And you're saying, nope. Now, he doesn't just suddenly turn around when you say no and say, oh, that's all right, they'll ask again in the afternoon. He said, I want an ice cream. Dad, I want an ice cream. I want an ice cream. And eventually you can turn around and say, oh, go on then, but don't tell your mother. So here's a little lad that's 5 years old who's already learned the skill of selling. He didn't take the no for an answer first time. How many of us, and one of the traits we have as adults is we get very polite. As we get older, we get too polite. If somebody says no, we say, all right then. You put loads and loads of effort into this, and you let them just get away with saying no. Or, the more polite, I'd like to think about it. How often do you get somebody say to you, I'd like to think about it, and that's the last time you speak to them? Because whenever you try and bring them up afterwards, or get them on an email, they're never available. He's my rule, and we're not doing sales skills tonight. You'll see where this is going. This is to do with sales and psychology. But one of my tips for you guys from when I do my selling courses would be, if ever you're sitting down with a client, always make sure you put a joint appointment in the diary for the next meeting, because it may be the last meeting you ever have with him. Anyway, so where I'm coming from this, and where this book comes from, is how we think about things as individuals and as people. So I've studied sales and psychology for many, many years, and allied it to the sales process. I started off in selling in. Who's been born since 1984? Since 1984.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go on, stick your hands up. Be proud that you're young. Don't be frightened. Okay, I started selling in 1984. No mobile phones, no CRM systems, no laptops. I could see looks of shock around the room. You walked around industrial estates with a folder under your arm and a book of maps in the car, and every time you drove into a town you stopped and you unfolded a huge map out and said, now where am I going? Those are the good old days. I subsequently then went to work for one of the major companies, Honeywell, who are very, very good at training salespeople. And it was there that introduced me to the finer art of selling. So I first came across a great book called In Search of Excellence. If you haven't read it, it's a great book by Waterman and Tom Peters. These were two guys that used to work at McKinsey. If ever you've delved into McKinsey and the 7S change model, they were the guys at McKinsey that developed the 7S model. So here's my first introduction to how you can start changing people's minds and understanding how people's minds work. And it was the why they do what they do and why people don't do what they do that started really interesting me. So at that time I found this book. The great thing about me is you always get great value for money. This is a book review. With me you get 2 books. I don't know anybody's come across this one before. It's called I'm Okay, You're Okay, by Thomas Harris. It was written in 1969, and there's a significance to that in a moment. It's about a subject called transactional analysis, parent, adult, child. So this now gets you into starting to think about how you are reacting and interacting with somebody. Parent-child is dead easy. As a parent, you talk to a child and they expect you to talk to them a certain way, and you expect them to respond back. And as long as you are both in the same boat and you understand where each other are, everything works fine. What happens when you're talking to an adult who is in an adult mode, but you've got your parent hat on? So you're telling them what you expect them to do, but hang on a second, they're in adult mode. They want to be consulted. That's where things start to break down. So if you're looking for a decent book and you're into that sort of thing, that's a really good book. The reason I mention that is because when I was reading this book and some of the notes around this book, I thought, I've read something about some of these things in there I've come across before, and I had to delve back to find. I went into my library and I found this one. And the reason I said on the back of it, it says here on the back, Thomas Harris explains how to gain control of yourself, your relationships and your future, no matter what has happened in the past. So this is interesting. How to gain control of yourself, your relationships and your future. This is now, that was 1969. This is now 2013. I think this first came out. How to recognise how your mind is working, understand and manage your emotions and thoughts, manage yourself and become the person you would like to be. Sound familiar? So here's a similar book. There's nothing new, just people come at it a different way. So, has anybody read this book, by the way? You have? Oh, shit. There's always one in the and you just bought it.
I bought it already.
I was okay with the fact that you just bought it. So I thought he hasn't had a chance to read it yet because he only bought it yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's okay. There's nothing worse than a clever son in the audience knowing more about something than you do.
I'll do my best.
It will get you, watch out.
Something. How long ago did you read it?
A couple of years.
Oh, that's okay then. You forgot most of it, hopefully. Steve Peters, I'm a big bikie fan, cyclist. Well, I used to be. When I was young, fit and virile and all that sort of stuff. I did 160 miles in one day on a bike. How about that? Push bike, not a motorbike, push bike. So I used to do this. I came across Steve Peters. I'm a mad keen cycling fan. Steve Peters is and still is the sports psychologist that works with the British cycling team and the Sky Pro cycling team. He's the guy that Chris Hoy and Vicky Pendleton in particular said there was no way they would win all the gold medals they'd done without this guy. Why did I start talking about selling? Because the two things link in. If you think, I'm just going to turn my notes over now, to make sure I don't forget anything good. Okay. So if you think about the cycling guys, they have lots of natural talent, they have lots of great training, and all the equipment that goes with it. And they had a third element, which was this guy that got the head into gear. And if you think, it's about the same with selling. There are three elements of selling. Most people will tell you there are two elements of selling. When I do my sales and training coaching, I say there are three elements. One is your product knowledge, about your knowledge of product and your service, which you need to know, one. The second element is your sales skills and the sales training that you acquire or are taught, which you can learn and build on those original ones you had when you were 5 years old. But the third and most important one is you, the elements of you and how you react with people and how you control yourself and how you apply yourself. So that's where the parallels come in. This book, getting down to this book eventually. I told you it wasn't going to be as long as Shaquille's. Promise you it won't. It's a great read. It really is a great read. It's a book that you need to read in chunks. It is not what you would call a Robert Harris page turner. You're not going to sit there all the day on your sunbed on holiday and go, oh, must read the next chapter. I struggled for the first 50 pages when I took it on holiday, and I'll come back in September when I came on holiday. After about 50 pages, I think I'm really struggling with this. And then I realised that the way to read is in bite-sized chunks. One chapter in the morning, one chapter in the evening. I don't know whether you found the same. And from that perspective, you'll appreciate in a 10-minute review, I am not going to go into a book that's this thick and this complex. All I'd like to do is share with you a couple of things which I'm going to read from my notes so I don't forget them, because he says it far better than I do. Effectively, he says that the brain is in three parts. For those of you that know your way around brain, it's called the frontal, the parietal and the limbic. Steve Peters refers to it as a human, the computer and the chimp. See, I've been doing this for 15 minutes. It's the first time I've mentioned chimp. That's pretty good, that. Should have took a bet out. So, you are the human, obviously. Your computer's a storage area and an automatic functioning machine. So effectively, think about it, that's where you sort of do stuff. And your chimp is an emotional thinking machine. And it says in his book, any one of them can take complete control, but usually they work together, hopefully. Steve Peters advocates the chimp is an emotional machine that thinks independently from us. It's not good or it's not bad, it's just a chimp. You are not responsible for the nature of your chimp, but you are responsible for managing it. So how does a chimp work? Road rage is a classic example. How many times have you driven down the road and somebody's cut in front of you and you scream and shout and you bang the steering wheel and you make obscene gestures out the window or in front of you, whatever? That is your chimp working. Your chimp has applied itself before your brain can kick into gear and think, hang on a second, this is logical what I'm doing here. The logical person in you would just sit back and relax slightly and just ease your car back. But no, you want to chase them and you want to vent your own frustration on them. That is your chimp effectively taking over. So, why does it take over? We can think of the computer as running at a speed of around 4 times that of the chimp and 20 times that of the human. Therefore, if the computer is operating well, it can execute commands at an amazing speed with complete accuracy and before the chimp or human has a chance to finish thinking. So in other words, we acquire skills from all over the place which are stored in our brain and automatically apply them. But every now and again things happen and our chimp kicks in saying, I'm taking ownership of this. And it happens way before, because your chimp operates 5 times quicker than your human logical brain. So, one of the things this book goes into a lot of detail is about how you pre-program, or put another way, so some things are pre-programmed in and stick in there, and some you can acquire and some you can change. So the book refers to them as autopilots, gremlins, goblins and stones of life. So our computer effectively is infiltrated by these things. Definition, very, very briefly. The autopilot is a constructive or helpful belief or behaviour. So these are good things that you learn as children and automatically apply throughout your life, because you know that they are right and just happen automatically. The gremlin is an unhelpful or destructive belief or behaviour that is removable. Heard a great example of one of those recently, whereby a young lad was about 8 or 9, and he was on holiday with his parents and his grandparents, And as is the way with the kids thing, somebody on the stage said, would anyone like to come up on the stage and tell us a story or tell us a joke or something? So this little 8-year-old goes toddling off down the road, Mummy, can I go? Yes. And you walk past his granddad and say, oh, don't be a show-off. You imagine how that 7-year-old now is going to feel for some considerable time when he's asked to go and stand in front of a group of people. That is the classic example of what can be in your mind for a long, long time and be very, very difficult to remove, because your granddad's somebody you admire greatly has said, if I do this, I'm a show-off. The other ones, it says, a goblin is an unhelpful or destructive belief or behaviour that is firmly fixed and is extremely difficult to remove. And that would be a classic example, maybe, of when the granddad said to him, don't be a show-off. And the fourth one is the stone of life, which is all about your values and beliefs. As I say, that's what the book's about. I'm not going to philosophise about all the things in there, but it really is a great read. It tells you, if you are into how your mind works and why it doesn't work, how you can change your mind for the better, even better, how you can actually change other people's mindsets without them realising, which is really clever as well. And so I'm not going to go into that now. And it's not by hypnotherapy, it's about understanding whether... Anybody done disc profiling? If you've done disc profiling, you'll start to understand the sort of things we mean. You can communicate better with people when you know what sort of level they're at and what playing field they're at and where they're playing, which field they're playing in, and communicate on their level. So that's when it comes back to this. Effectively, this is a sort of variation of the old parent adult child became sort of disc. It says here, do you sabotage your own happiness and success? Are you struggling to make sense of yourself? Do your emotions sometimes dictate your life? I would recommend this as a read. If you're really into, if you don't give two hoots, then fine, don't read it. But if you are interested in how your mind works, how you can change your mind for the better, and how you can interact with people around you far better, it's a great read. Okay.